Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Today I wanted to quickly just talk about the Division 2's community. Now, the community is made up of a lot of new people who didn't get to play Tom Clancy's The Division 1 or who had the opportunity, but the game didn't really capture them at that point in time. And it's also made up of people who played The Division 1, whether casually or, hardcore or, put in a lot of time in that game and eventually moved on to The Division 2. But right now, what we see is a lot of people talking about the nature of the Division 2, talking about how the game is dead, talking about how the game cannot in any way be revived or whatever. And one thing I want to say is the Division 2 is the community is actually the best community for the game, because there are ways in which we do things. We keep the community, discussing the game, and we keep the developers as accountable as we possibly can. We don't let them get away with a lot. We're always on their case. But nonetheless, I feel like this video will be beneficial for the developers, because as broken or as imperfect as the community is, we are the best community for the Division 2. And the reason I say so is because when the Division first came out, a lot of people didn't understand what the game was about. So many of them jumped on the game because of hype and marketing and all of that. Numbers were pushed out the door. But when it came down to the nitty gritty, it was a lot of the people who really enjoyed the game that actually stuck with the game and stayed with the game. And I think this community of people, most of these people have carried over to the Division 2 and would like to see the Division 2 to be a better game. This is the aspect of the community that I say is the best community for the developers. Also, there are people who never even got to play the Division 1 who enjoy the Division 2, and they are also part of the community as well. And then there are those of us who put in a lot of time in the Division 1 who played on multiple platforms, and we want the game to be great. So a lot of the feedback that we give is actually beneficial, in my opinion, in order for the developers to be able to understand what kind of needs this community does have. Many may look from outside and say, oh, this community is not grateful. Even some may look from the developer side of things and, talk about how the community is usually grouchy and gripey. But the large part of it is this: many games are made or are being made out there, and there are no communities surrounding those games. I mean, the developers are making these games and are hoping that they'll be able to cultivate a community that can even give them feedback. And so if you've watched the last few videos that I've had and that I've made, I feel like it's noteworthy that everybody recognizes that the most essential part of a game is the community. I mean, it is just the reality. If the community does not buy your game, if people don't buy your game is going to be dead in obscurity and will be picked up, from the bottom of the sale bins one day, and it will not have made any mark at all. But if people actually pick up your game and people actually take their time to play the game, I think, you're in a good position, and that position needs to be valued. Because right now, even though people may be saying the game is dead, people may be talking about the nature of the game, like, oh, there's nothing that can happen to to revive this game or whatever. I think the game is still in a decent place. People are still playing the game. Yes, many have moved on, but a good number still play from time to time without stopping. It is quite interesting to see how people are just constantly and consistently playing the Division 2. If I look on my friends list, I'm always seeing people consistently playing the game. And these are people who consistently have their criticisms of the game as well. I feel like a lot of people think when you criticize the game, it means that you're no longer going to play the game, or it means that you're no longer playing the game. No, I think that is a big misconception. In fact, I can almost say that, a good number of people that even take their time to voice criticisms, be it on YouTube, be it on Reddit, be it on anywhere, are people who will eventually type up their criticism, click submit or post, and then go pick up the game in the same breath, because they enjoy very certain aspects and core aspects of the game, and they would love to see it better. Now, there are some people whose job is just to go around trolling everything, and nothing can ever make them satisfied or happy. Now, people like those, I guess they get to sleep, well, or they sleep better when they go ahead and, throw out all this stuff just to cause a rave. But I don't think a lot of the community is made up of people that are shallow like that. I think What we have is people who are grounded in gaming, who have seen a lot of good sides in games overall, that want the Division 2 to be better. And then you also have a lot of us who played the Division 1, who through feedback, through player interaction with the developers, we were eventually able to come up with a working pattern for the division while it was, moving towards its end of life, and then the announcement of the Division 2. Most of us that were there, a lot of people said, making a new game was probably the way to go, to be able to bring in a community of people, to be able to bring in new people to the game. I can say, okay, perhaps I see that as something that is valuable. Maybe they wanted to make a little bit more money. Okay, but at the same time, they seem to have left a lot of the things that made the first game better on the table and moved on with another decision that eventually backfired. So in that sense, it felt like they didn't value the original community, even though the original community was not enough for them to sell, a lot of copies of maybe even DLC. If they had done so in Division 1, at least it would have still been noteworthy to continue to work with that core community, because it's that core community that really makes the game what it is. And what's really surprising? Even the core community, most members of the core community that felt like the game moved in a different direction for them, have actually still stuck around. I'm not saying that, they are doing something better than the people who left. People who left just said, we just don't feel that this is worth it. And they found other games that are taking their interest. There's nothing wrong with that as well. I'm just saying that the developers, be it as it may, or whatever it is, wherever this whole card thing may fall, they find themselves in a very unique position. And that is having a community that is still active, a community that still wants to see their game become better, a community that wants to see the game actually suit the entire player base, a community that even wants other players to come back to the game. I mean, it's not difficult to decipher that at the end of the day, it's for the game to get better. I think maybe we're in a place where people feel like some of us are talking about these things because we want the game to better suit us, and I don't think that's my own my own issue. My issue, I have only one issue with Tom Clancy's The Division 2. One. And that is the nature of the content. They have not provided a lot of content options that are replayable. They only have the raid. And now that a lot of players who could not do the raid have left, the replayable option of the raid is now much more difficult, to be able to rally people together and play. Now, it's not impossible. Like I've said before, I don't think it's impossible. I can, get on Discord. I'm in like 9 different Discord servers. We'll find people to play a raid if I really wanted to. But at the same time, I wish other players had other options to be able to grind and play replayable content, just like we did in the Division 1. And yes, a lot of that content came out later on, but at the same time, you have to ask yourself and say, why not bring content of that nature to the game early enough? Even having had 6 months down the road, why give a whole year of free content that doesn't have the replayability, and then leave players in a place where everything is linear in a sense? So you can beat all the Pentagon missions. I played them once and then that was it. I played Camp White Oak maybe 3 or 4 times, National Zoo maybe 4 or 5 times. And then that was it for me, because these are linear missions. And so what we want are those challenge missions, and then a way for us to be able to access them easily. I think that's my only qualms with the game, if you understand what I mean. Other things in terms of, balancing and PvP, those qualms don't affect me because I don't PvP, and I've said it before. But at the same time, even if they solve that one aspect, they still have other aspects to still solve. And I think the other side of the coin is there's a community there that is still, rallying for these things to get better, which it seems like they have yet to address as well. So aggregate all these things together, you have a really huge issue on your hands, and the community is here to give the feedback. But I have to preface it with this. Thylander, if you watch my last video, did say that they were working very hard to bring some things into play. I don't know exactly what that looks like in state of the game. In fact, if you're watching this video, it's most likely that the video is at the cusp of another state of the game. So I guess we're going to see exactly what the developers have in store. So that's pretty much what I have for today. Thank you very much for your time and audience. I appreciate you guys listening to the video. If you want to check the links and support the channel, please do so. I have a book that you can buy and read and critique and all that stuff. It's really helpful for the channel. And I have a second channel if you want to check out my other content there as well. Feel free to do so. And I guess I'll see you in my next video. Peace.